Hey everybody, I'm Anna Blunt,
And I'm David, left-brained artist.
and today we're going to talk about some of your paintings that you would like feedback on. We're going to start out with a painting submitted by Tony and Carol Fratt, and the question that they asked is, why does my painting have so many pinholes? So what they did, I think they did a split cup pour with this, and they used Artist's Loft Ready Pour paint, and this is their painting. Do you have any thoughts on this, David?
So my first question would here is, how did you mix that painting? Because if you shake a ready-to-mix painting, it's going to introduce a ton of bubbles, and those bubbles turn into pinhole bubbles on your canvas. So that would be the first thing that I think would have happened here.
Yeah, I would agree. All of those little either cells that appear in the wet painting, the little tiny round cells, that's when you have air bubbles that pop while the paint is still wet. If you're getting actual like pinprick holes in the dried painting, that happens when the air bubbles pop as the paint is mostly dry. So I don't know if you're like talking about actual holes or just the little popped air bubbles. Either way, it's the same issue and it's air bubbles.
Yeah, and so one thing you can do there is you can actually put those paints in a warm bowl of water. You know, don't cover the whole thing, but just to warm the paint up a little bit. That'll keep pinholes from forming initially. And then if you're mixing your paint, you want to kind of swirl it around rather than shake, because anytime you shake that again, it's going to introduce a ton of bubbles. So you can shake it, but you have to leave it for an hour or two and let it settle before you use it, and it'll keep it from happening. Although I have never found a place to keep it from happening at all. I always get a few in every painting.
Oh yes, same. If you want to minimize air bubbles, you can pour that paint into a cup and then gently stir it, because gentle stirring will mix it without introducing lots of air bubbles. If you feel like you have air bubbles in your paint, you can take the cup and just like tap it on your table, and that'll force the air bubbles to the surface of the cup, and then you can use your torch to pop some of those air bubbles. So you can kind of speed up the process that way, or you can just stir it gently and let it sit for a number of hours. Okay, our next batch of paintings come from Victoria King, who was asking generally for feedback on her art. She said the paint that she used, the brands were Got Ideal and Dollar General, and she mixed them with a Floetrol and glue mixture, and she used silicone in at least some of the colors. So what do you think of this purple painting?
So this purple painting looks a lot like a lot of the initial paintings that I created just based on looking at other artists. It's hard to see the center there, which I think is probably the best part of that, just because of the light reflection. But I really like how some of these cells came out over the sides. It looks like it's going to be a little bit glittery there. The only thing I would say is there's not a lot of difference between the colors, so it's kind of monochrome. That can be a good thing. If you want to pop color, you might choose another color that kind of contrasts a little bit with these ones to give it a little bit more pop.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think as it is, this would make a really excellent background for like, some artistic text or some other painted thing over the top. I think if you want a piece of art to stand out completely by itself, you need to have a little bit more contrast, whether that's a really dark purple or maybe a navy blue or a pink or something that's going to bring just another element of color into that. But overall, I do quite like it.
So here's the next set, which looks like some ribbon pours.
I like these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have great color. I am surprised using the colors that were used that you didn't get a lot more mud. So, especially on this one where you have a lot of specific colors coming out and you don't have mud in between, I think it really jumps out at you.
My guess is that to not get mud, that probably these paints are mixed relatively thick, because the thicker your paint is, the less likely they are to blend with each other. Especially, I don't know if she said this was in a split cup. These do kind of look like a split cup, but it may have just been a layered cup for a ribbon pour.
Yeah, and another way you can tell that the paints are a little bit thicker is because you don't get jagged lines on the edges. The thinner the paint goes, as you're tilting that paint off, you start to get jagged lines on the edges. So if you want to avoid that, a little bit thicker paint will keep that from happening. And it looks like this one has a little bit of silicone used to get some nice cells to come out.
Yeah, that's really cool. I can't tell if the silicone was maybe in like one color so that it doesn't appear in all of the swoops, or whether it was added like a chameleon cell. They don't really look like chameleon cells, but it looks, I don't know, I find it very intriguing.
Yeah, this could also be, I've seen this happen like when you layer silicone, you actually pour the paints in your cup and then put silicone on top and then pour more paint in. So it's like a layer of
Interesting.
silicone rather than silicone inside each of the individual colors. But you're right, it's hard to tell. So when I mentioned before about the consistency of paint, you see you have the jagged edges here. So I can tell, it's not a good or a bad thing, it's just I can tell that the paint here was thinner than the previous one just because I see those more jagged edges between the colors.
Yeah, this one, the jaggedness, one of the things that that says to me is that possibly the paint was overstretched, or you weren't stretching it in a really like intentional fashion. What's funny is that my younger sister, she does fluid art. She did it for a couple of years before I do, and her style is chaos. She loves to do a flip cup and then just like sprinkle on other colors, and she tilts it this way and that way, and her cells are always like really strange shapes, and it drives me a little nuts, but some people love that. So when I see these lines kind of going all over the place, to me it looks like you tilted this way and then you tilted that way and then you tilted this way and then maybe you stretched it too far, and then the like the lines couldn't quite come back to being neat, or maybe they just poured on that way. I can't tell. I didn't watch you do it. But sometimes if you have kind of that like chaotic look, it might mean that you don't have quite enough paint to like cover the whole canvas, and so you have to overstretch it.
Yeah, and none of us want to waste paint. We don't want to tilt all the paint off. But sometimes having a little bit extra paint, so you don't have to tilt as much off, can keep something like that from happening.
Right. But I do like this.
Yeah, I also agree. I actually really like how these, um, you know, green and yellow kind of pop out from this painting, especially here in the center.
It looks like certain types of stone, like a cut gemstone. There's
Oh
some
yeah,
rocks that look a lot like this, so I like it.
yeah. This, similar to the previous one with the purple one at the beginning, this one has some colors that kind of pop out, so you can see how it's a lot less monochrome, which I think adds to the beauty of this painting. It looks like it also has some, I'm assuming this is gold because it kind of looks metallic on the outside here, but I like the pops of purple and gold there. I mean, in the end, I think this one's a winner.
Yeah, this one I can't tell. It looks like maybe there's silicone oil in the purple, or because there's some of those kind of irregular shaped cells, it makes me wonder whether that is some silicone in this one. It does look like a more kind of chaotic pour out, whether that's a flip cup or a straight pour. But yes, I really like the color combo on this. I love the pink with the peach and the purple and the gold. It's very, very dreamy, very girly, and I like it a lot. This next painting was submitted by Tracy, and this is a bloom, and her question was, how do I get the cells to reach all the way to the edge of the canvas? Tracy, I'm wondering the same thing. No, her paints, she's using Amsterdam and Golden Brand mixed with the Bloom recipe, which is the untinted house paint, and the Jones Sonia gloss varnish. And I assume it's the Australian Floetrol cell activator. So it's a standard Shelley Art Bloom. First of all, I want to say I love your colors. It's a great kind of Southwest feel. And I can tell that you got some lacing, so it is nice. I think what I would say is it looks like maybe you did an initial blowout and then you blew the edges out further, either with a straw or by mouth. And I think what I would say is the reason you're not getting cells there is because the lacing for a bloom forms as the cell activator stretches over top of your other colors. So if you're blowing out your colors, but you're not blowing the cell activator over those colors, you're not going to get the lacing. So it could be that you don't have enough cell activator to go all the way across, or it could just be kind of an inconsistent blowout. I'm not sure. I like it. It looks really cool. It looks like you did some kind of skewer modifications, which are nice. But I know you want those dramatic cells. So my recommendation personally, I have a hard time blowing out center blooms by mouth. I know Lisa Marvin is great at it, and there's lots of people who are great at that. I have a hard time getting the right amount of blow and spreading the cell activator evenly. So I have a little hair dryer that I use for my Dutch pours. It's made by MHU, and it's like a travel size hair dryer, and I don't use the concentrator. So it's got the round opening like a standard hair dryer, but it's small. And I like to blow out my blooms with that. So what I like to do is you put your cell activator in the middle, and then you blow it either by mouth or with the hair dryer straight on the cell activator to kind of widen out that puddle just a little bit. And then you blow kind of down and out with the hair dryer. And what you want to look for is, can I see the cell activator blowing across the colors? Because once the cell activator stops traveling, you're going to stop getting the lacing. That's my main tip. The other one would be have enough paint on there so that even if you can't blow it all the way out to the edge of the canvas, you can spin it to stretch that lacing pretty much to the edge.
I think spinning is key here, especially with a painting like this. If you get some great lacing right here in the center, and then you can spin it to pull that lacing kind of outside the painting, that's the easiest way to get the lacing on the outside. The other thing is I see a lot of people put a ton of paint down and a little bit of cell activator, and then they blow, but it only blows like a quarter of the way into the colored paint that they have. You're never going to have cells on the outside there. So you're better off using less paint, a little bit more cell activator, getting that paint to blow all the way over to the pillow, just to the pillow, or maybe just over the pillow, because you're actually blowing the paint and the cell activator kind of over the top of the pillow. And then that'll give you a wider area for you to spin and to pull those cells all the way out to the edges. I also generally I do a quick test with my cell activator just straight down on my silicone mat, just a little test to kind of blow it out to see how it is, and then I adjust the consistency of my cell activator right before I pour. But that way I have something I can actually see how the cells are forming, if they're thick, if they're thin, are they holding in my other paint, just in case I need to make some minor adjustments to my paint right before I actually do the pour.
Yeah, but I would recommend using the hair dryer because I have a number of blooms where I think I used the right amount of cell activator, but just like I couldn't get my mouth to blow it at the right pressure or whatever. And so it did not make as many cells. And the first time I used my hair dryer, it was like the clouds opened and the angels sang. And I was like, why have I never tried this before? So yeah.
Yeah, and just an example, I happen to have mine right here. So we're talking about something small like this,
yep.
without the
That's
concentrator.
the exact one I have.
So we're just going down, kind of pushing the paint out, and then we're kind of pushing out like this to get the cell activator to go on the outside. I need to try that. I honestly have never tried that. I've seen people do it, and I think part of my problem is I blow too hard, so it goes into the pillow paint, and then I get the white or the whatever color the pillow paint is kind of showing through, which you don't really want. You want those colors to stay on top of that pillow. So I mean, this painting here, Tracy, you didn't do any of those things. That's a problem that I have had in the past, so I'm gonna have to try that same thing with the hair dryer. I'm also in love with this color palette. The turquoise jewelry, the Aztec type jewelry, the New Mexico, that type of color palettes, I just love it.
I have a very similar bloom that I did with these same basic colors, plus a little bit of a crimson and I think a little bit of gold. And it's my favorite bloom I've ever done. So
you need to point me to that one. I got to go look.
Yeah, I'll try to link it here in the video to that one.
Perfect.
These next couple of pictures come from Pamela Smith, and she's looking for feedback on cloud pours. She said the cloud pour formulas and the consistencies. She said in her pours she has boulders and cells show up, but she said the clouds are muted or broken up. So as her paint mixture, she's using Amsterdam and golden paint, and she's mixing that with Floetrol at a 1 part paint to 3 parts Floetrol. and then thinned with water. This is how I mix most of my paints for like general pours. But then there's also a cloud mixture, which is Pearl Medium and Artist Loft Soft Body White. Yeah, Vallejo, Pearl Medium, and Floetrol. So that is a different type of paint, one that is a lighter density and produces those puffy clouds. So she said she stacked up her paints, including layers of that cloud mixture, and then did a straight pour out while slowly spinning the canvas. So first of all, I just want to look at this and say, this is a fantastic painting. I don't, I, I don't know what exactly you feel like isn't right with this painting. I see clouds in the middle. I see gorgeous boulders all around. I see beautiful, intricate layers. I see a great color mix. I don't see a problem with this, honestly.
Yeah, this is a beautiful painting. Both of them. We'll look at the other one in just a second, but both of these paintings are beautiful. One thing I would say, you probably are already doing this, but Gina DeLuca is the master of the cloud pour. I'm sure there are others, but she's the one that I generally look to. And one of the secrets that I've found with Gina is she does her straight pour, and then she torches, and then she lets it sit and develop before, like for minutes, sometimes 10, 15 minutes, she lets it sit and develop, and then she expands it out. When you tilt is going to affect how big and how the cloud pour, the boulder cell, or the cloud formula happens. So it depends on what you want. If you want big, burly cells, you want to give them time to show up before you tilt. If you want lots of little ones, you want to tilt immediately, and then they will come up at the end once you've kind of thinned out your paint. As the paint thins, that thinner mixture, the cloud mixture, will want to come back up through. So it just depends on what you're looking for there. I will say this part right here catches my eye every single time. I just love how the blue and the red colors here. You got a little bit of green. I love this section, and then this one right here. I can't. This all 3D boulder cells that we have here. I really like how that looks.
I think my one comment on this one is if you're looking for more clouds, perhaps you just need to add more layers of that cloud mix. I mean, it looks to me like you have lots of it, but I don't know if you stacked like 4 colors and then the cloud mixture and then 4 colors in the cloud mixture or whatever. I don't know how you did that, but maybe if you want even more, then maybe you'd layer 2 or 3 colors and then the cloud mixture, 2 or 3 and then the cloud mixture. I think if you have a big layer of your cloud mixture, you're going to get big pockets of clouds and then bigger sections without clouds, like what we have here. We've got big layer of clouds on the top, then you got the stripes, and then another big layer of clouds. Possibly if you have smaller layers of the cloud mix in between, you may have more smaller, like all across the canvas, clouds. I don't know. It's a thought.
Yeah, I completely agree. Having a little bit in between will make lots more. Having bigger ones will make these bigger swaths of the cloud.
This one's really cool.
And there's a lot more clouds here too. I mean, all of these are essentially that cloud mixture coming out.
So a cloud pour is essentially just a straight pour, but it has some different ingredients in it. And the reason that the cloud mixture makes those puffy cells is because of density. It's a lighter density paint. So you can get a similar effect by using house paint, which is a lighter density, or the, what does Sarah Mack use for her?
The Artist Loft Flow?
No, for her galaxy pours, she used like a particular kind of paint that you're like, oh, use this, and that's a lighter density, and so it rises and it tends to take over a painting.
Oh, the satin enamel.
Satin enamels, yes. So sometimes you want to steer clear of those because they will dominate your pour, and sometimes you want to use them because you want them to dominate your pour. So, but other factors in a straight pour are like the height of your cup. You know, if your cup is closer to your canvas, it's going to pour out more straight. If you pour it from a height, it's going to like churn and blend. And so they're going to produce different effects. If you want it looking kind of like a river, where the colors are more solid, then pour from down lower. If you want it all kind of like let everything come up the way it wants to come up, then maybe you want to pour from a height and let it, as it mixes, let everything come up. I like to kind of blend it and move the cup up and down as I do a straight pour. I know with Gina, she doesn't. She keeps it all very uniform and she pours it slowly. So different artists are going to have different techniques. And I would recommend just play around until you find, oh, yes, this makes the effect that I want.
And I think the last one is all of us. I call it the painter's curse. We create this art and we look at it very critical as the artist, but then you get somebody like me and Anna looking at your art and going, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing."
Like, why are you asking for feedback on this painting?
This is lovely art. Yes, absolutely, we can make changes, and you can. I know sometimes when I'm painting, what I have in my mind, I don't actually get, and therefore I'm disappointed. But the painting is still beautiful, so we need to kind of keep that in mind also. I think these are beautiful paintings. You're doing amazing with your cloud pour, but there are some little things that you can do to change how it looks to try and get that picture that you're looking for in your head. So well done, Pamela.
Well, while I've got you here, can I ask for your opinion on one of my paintings that I did recently that's not my favorite?
Oh, I love this video.
Yeah, so this is the Aurora Borealis painting. This was my second try where I tweaked some of my paint mixtures in order to try to get all of the densities the same. And so I did still have the black cells coming up through the colors, but it wasn't as bad as before.
Right.
So I wondered, do you have thoughts about this painting, or do you have any recommendations on how to get all of your paint densities kind of the same? Because I know that you can use paint density to create cells, but then sometimes you don't want to have cells, and so you want all your densities to be the same, but the colors are intrinsically of different density. Do you have a way to balance that?
Yeah, so I talk a lot about density, and I have a little density chart on my website that just talks about the actual densities of paint based on the pigments that they use. The problems with paints is density is only one piece of it. You also have how the paints are made and the interactions that what is inside the paint makes with other paints. I have taken the course that Olga Sobey did on her Dutch pours.
I took that too.
Yeah, and one of the things that she does is she adds a little bit of gloss medium to some of her paints. And you and I were talking a little bit about this before, but gloss medium can help increase the density of your paint, but I don't take that as gospel, all of you people here watching this video.
Yeah.
The problem is that's only one piece of a paint. So you have every paint is going to be made up of the pigments. It's going to be made up of the medium that they're using. There's going to be additives. There's going to be water that are part of that, and there's just going to be filler, so they can make a body of paint that has the body that they want, but doesn't diminish the color, but so that the paint brand can make it as cheaply as possible. Every paint brand does that. You know, some people put less in because they don't have to worry about it being really cheap paint, but all of those things affect not only the density of the paint, but how that paint interacts with other paint. So yes, there are some things you can do to increase the density of paint, but you have to be careful about how it's going to interact with one paint. One is, and when we're talking about a little bit of gel medium, it's a tiny bit of gel medium. And the soft and the heavy gels, they do different things to paint. So you could probably make a black that you really love, add a little bit of the gel to it to help it become a little bit more dense. It's not gonna be like it's going to stop overpowering everything or start overpowering everything depending on which direction you go, but it could adjust it enough to make the interaction between the colors that you have a little bit better. So for example, that painting that you have the nice, Aurora Borealis is beautiful, especially, didn't you say you saw the Aurora Borealis in your...
Yeah, I saw it in West Virginia.
I was in Utah, and it's too bright here, and I wasn't able to get out of town. But supposedly we were able. We
Aw.
were supposed to be able to see it. So I love how the pink kind of overshadows everything. The green in this one you got a little bit better. In the previous one, it kind of disappeared, if I recall correctly.
Yeah,
So
it was too
if you
dense.
want, yeah, one thing you could also do is try using a color that's very similar. Like for blacks, what I like to do is I like to add some dioxazine purple or some Payne's gray, because those are different consistencies.
Payne's gray is dense. That is
Yeah.
something that I have noticed. I had that thought as you were talking earlier. I was like, I could add Payne's gray to my black. So,
And
yeah.
with galaxy pores, I love using that because in nature there is no pure black, really. There is shades of color of black. So one thing you could do is, again, add a little bit of those and kind of see how it interacts with that. So I remember watching this video and thinking how beautiful and how much the pink stayed on top of the black. And then I believe you adjusted the color of the green so it would kind of stand out more because it had fallen to the base.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're looking for. And we talked about the gel medium. The problem I think that's going to happen with the gel medium is you're going to get more cells if you add it. Which
Really?
anytime a paint that has the gel medium is going to go on top of a paint that doesn't have it. Now not all paints are that way, but the higher
Because
quality
the density
paints.
would be higher than it's gonna,
Right.
Yeah.
So you're going to get two, and the interaction is going to be different because now you have a little bit of that gel stain or gel paint in or the gel medium in your paint. So you'll probably have to test to see how that works. But
Yeah.
that look is something that I've been wanting to get into a galaxy pour, and I hopefully I can start doing a couple more galaxy pours. So I might have to pick your brain about that after watching your video again.
Well, thanks so much, David, for joining me. This was really fun to do this kind of troubleshooting of paintings with you. And thank you to everyone who submitted your paintings. I hope that this feedback was helpful and that it inspired you to try something new. If you'd like to get feedback on another pour, or if after seeing this you think, yeah, I'd like to do that, the link to the form, the submission form, is still down in the video description, so you can fill that out, and if we get enough people submitting, then maybe we'll do another round of these. But until then, thanks so much, David. I'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, Anna. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.